Hello ladies and gentlemen, and today I'll be talking to you guys about Celtic Wales. Now, you guys might not know about anything about Celtic Wales or what actually happened to it, which that's what I'm trying to cover. Now, if you guys don't actually know the history of Wales, I would advise you guys to actually look up the history, because Celtic Wales is different compared to history books. Now, when we think of Celts and history, we normally think of barbaric warriors, but in truth, Wales is a land that is actually named by the Saxons, and the Saxons named Wales in a term meaning foreigner, even though the Welsh were the original Britons. So, yeah, it's confusing, I know. Now though, when we take a look at this history book, we do actually see a little bit of amazing forms of history. Now, if you guys don't understand what actually happened in Wales, it is stated that when Wales actually, well, became Wales, this is actually at the time when the Anglo-Saxons had to come over, and the reason being is because the Romans had left. Now, as soon as Rome left, well, Great Britain, or England at the time, or Britain, whatever you want to pronounce it as, it pretty much was stated that, well, here come the Saxons, reason being, they were hired to come over by the Celtic people of Britain, in order to defend them from the invading Picts. In other words, the Scots, or Caledonians. It's confusing, I know. And in doing so, this is actually what happened. The Saxons became mercenaries for the Celtic people. Problem is, though, they betrayed them in the end. Especially during the Night of the Long Knives, sometime during the evolution era of the Celtic people. It did not end well for the people of Wales, or the Celtic people, because they were actually forced into the land west, into the lands of modern-day Wales, or as well in the lands of Cornwall, or even further into Scotland. Reason being, they were trying to get away from the Saxons. The Saxons are not the pleasant guys in history. Reason being, they kinda kill whatever they can take over in order to, well, further breed their own divisions. In other words, a more German-like kingdom. In fact, that's actually what we see during the times of the early Dark Ages, pretty much from the Dark Ages of the Vendel period up until sometime after 1066. In doing so, Saxon England ain't no longer Saxon England. It's just Normans, but I'll get that at some other time. But what about the lands of Wales? As I stated, it's actually a Saxon word meaning foreigner. In other words, anyone that's not from their kingdom is pronounced a foreigner, such as Wales itself, Scotland, Cornwall, the Celts of Ireland, anything that's, well, you know. In fact, this is actually supposed to be a Saxon word meaning not Saxon. In other words, a Welshman is not a Saxon, he's a Welshman. So in other words, Welsh, he's a foreigner. It's kind of like here in the United States nowadays. If we were to see a foreigner, say like with Mexico or here in Texas, like anyone's not from Texas, we would call them a Welshman if we had that term. So yeah, Welsh, you're a foreigner. It's kind of like with the Greeks, for example, and the Romans. The term barbarian meaning the term foreigner. Anyone that is not Greek or Roman. Well, that's the same with the Saxons, so that's where we get their name. Now, if you guys don't understand what actually happened in Wales, this is actually the most impressive part. When Wales actually became part of its own kingdom now, it actually formed its great kingdom out of nothing more than a couple of fractured kingdoms. And in doing so, created a massive one. One that bordered against the Saxons. Now, during this timeline though, the Saxons did actually try to take over Wales, and unsuccessfully in the process. It's actually stated that due to the mountainous terrain in northern Wales, and including the marshlands in the south, and plus to the fact the Welsh are hard to beat. Seen as though pretty much the Welsh military was mostly of archers or skirmishing units that could actually attack any invader from either side. However, this changed after the year of 1066 when the Normans came around. However, the Normans were not the best at advancing in military groups. In fact, at the time when the Normans actually tried to invade Wales, they failed miserably. In doing so, they actually lost hundreds of thousands of men, and even Norman conquerors such as, well, William the Conqueror himself even stated that it would be impossible to take Wales. However, this actually changed over time. In fact, somebody actually came up with the idea to actually use moat and bailey castles. If you guys don't know what moat and bailey castles is, I will leave a link down below for Shadiversity for you guys to actually understand. Now, if you guys actually don't understand about this part, though, as soon as the Normans actually kept on trying to actually build moat and bailey castles, it still didn't work. In fact, the Welsh managed to burn down the moat and bailey castles, and including the Normans inside, which is kind of probably the most destructive thing a Welshman could probably do to piss off an Englishman. It was only during the late 1200s, or including pretty much around the time of Prince Dafydd of Wales, that pretty much Wales needed its own king. And Prince Dafydd was actually the king of the Wales, or the Prince of Wales at the time. He actually proclaimed himself as King of Wales, and so on and so on. But unfortunately, someone didn't like that. And that man was none other than Edward I. Now, if you guys don't know what Edward did to Wales, he kinda had an iron fist in the area. In fact, he managed to take control of Wales, just like he did with Scotland. Put in castles here and there, and kept on moving. However, this didn't work to his advantage. In fact, it was stated that a lot of the times, though, that pretty much the Welsh kept fighting back. And they kept doing this up until sometime in the 1300s. Though mostly after Edward II's death, it was stated that most of these kind of conflicts were mostly small rebellions that were on unison. In other words, they didn't have any time and place, and kind of this kept happening due to the idiocy of English lords, which you gotta admit is kind of, well, hard to miss. Now, if you guys also don't realize that after Prince of Wales' death, it was actually stated that, well, Wales was now going to be the land of the Prince of Wales. In other words, the future heir of the Kingdom of England. However, a lot of English kind of found it a little weird, and as well, a lot of Welshmen kind of found it unnecessary, or including insolence. Now, as well, when it came to the Welsh, as I stated, they were technically stated by the English as a barbaric kingdom, a savage people that don't know how to read or write and are idiots to the way. This is untrue. In fact, the Welsh people actually had a democracy rather than a totalitarian kingdom. In other words, something that's far greater than England was. In fact, England at the time had barons fighting against, well, England. And in fact, if you were to technically take a look at England at the time, England actually had 300, like, I don't know how many rebellions, and that's not even counting the peasant revolts. But if you think about it, England went into thousands of civil wars, while Wales only went through 2 or 3. So that's impressive in the timeline. Reason being, the Welsh were more united due to the fact of their geography. Now, in the process though, Wales kinda still lost. It was only later in history books that there was a man named Owen Glendower that led the Welsh people to freedom. The Welsh rebellions was pretty much one of the most impressive things in history books. And in fact, Owen Glendower made a great, well, caused defeat after defeat for the English. In fact, he actually destroyed English castles, their homes, and as well, mainly because of the fact the Welsh were now being treated like second citizens in their home kingdom. And as well, here's the messed up part. Welshmen weren't even allowed to marry an Englishwoman. They couldn't even date them. Hell, they couldn't even stand in the same room with them. They couldn't even breathe the same air. They were treated like dogs. And in fact, this is really what made the Celtic people of Wales, well, act in revolt. And in fact, it's kind of, well, gruesome when seeing what actually happened to the English. In fact, Owen Glendower managed to actually take castle after castle, and even managed to invade England. Now, if you guys don't understand this, that's impressive in the timeline. In fact, most of the time, the Welsh were invaded by the English, not the other way around. Owen Glendower managed to actually beat the English time and time again. However, at this time, it was kind of becoming harder. Mainly because of the Black Prince of Wales. If you guys don't know him, he was King Henry. And in doing so, he actually managed to beat Owen at his own game. Though as well, many archers that were in the English army were actually Welshmen. In which actually even Henry himself even took an arrow to the face and managed to survive. However, though, he actually did have much, well, enthusiasm about the Welshmen, and he even stated that they should be treated equally. It was only after he defeated the Welsh that many people in England actually started to respect them more. However, Owen Glyndŵr was never captured. It was stated that he actually retreated in the mountains of Wales in order to fight again. Now, what does this actually tell us about what happened to Wales? It's actually telling us something. It's telling us about a people who, underneath all turmoil and death and such, would never give up. They would still fight to the very end to have their freedom as a people. But yes, guys, I know that this video was a little shorter than normal, but still, it was a little inspiring if you think about it. However, when you take a look at Wales, they are a Celtic people and still are a Celtic kingdom. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to Celtic Wales in the near future, but it is stated that most of the time there is a true history about them. But as well, guys, if you want to know more about these rebellions, I will be leaving links down below, as well a little bit of the castle buildings that would have actually been going on in Wales. Anyways, guys, this has been Templar. Hopefully you guys found this video interesting. Like and subscribe. Also, click that bell button for more notifications. If you guys have any interesting Celtic points of view that I could put in the month of March, let me also know in the comments below. Anyways, guys, this has been Templar. Have a good day.